Garcia with another segment of Seattle Spiritual Foundation's interview. Today, the iPodcast is interviewing one of my most favorite friends and colleagues, Dave Mallow, who is the founder-owner of Recovery GPS, which I highly, highly recommend, and I'm super excited that I have you on the show today to share with everyone just how helpful and how intricately awesome it can integrate people into life after treatment, sober living, and thus life.
Thank you, Michele. It's really good to be here.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I want to thank you for asking me to come and be a part of the podcast. I've seen a couple of the other ones that you've done. You do an incredible job. But more importantly, I want to thank you, and that you have it on tape, for doing everything that you do for the community. I mean, I really appreciate it. I've seen you since you landed in the desert area, and I've just seen the hundreds, maybe thousands of people that you've helped, and I really appreciate it. I think you go above and beyond, and I love you, so there's that too.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about yourself, what your purpose is. Like, how would you describe you, Dave Mallow? Because really, who am I, right? And what my purpose is. I think that's, the whole idea of this show is to really share that and, like, how your purpose helps the evolution process for humanity, because I know that it does, and I think that's an important contribution that we get to legacy leave.
Well, that's a really, it's not only a profound question, but it's a question that I appreciate because I don't get to hear that much. Generally it's questions about the work that I do, that's fine. But it makes me go dig deep and think about a couple of different things. One is when my recovery began in 2005, I was in a really dark place and I was very lost and I didn't know how to get out of that. But I've always been a seeker. I always knew there was something that could help me that was greater. It might have been my upbringing by my parents who gave me a Jewish upbringing. And so I always felt that there was something greater than me that I really wasn't afraid of. And at age 44, I'm 61 now, at age 44, I thought, something's wrong with me. The denial was so thick that I didn't realize I was sick. And once I had that aha moment, that real strong moment of clarity that we talk about, I asked God for help. And looking back on it, I guess I can say I was struck sober because I haven't really had the desire to drink or use or go back to the harmful habits that I had. Nice. And so my ride began at a treatment facility, and immediately afterwards I realized that this was something that really filled my soul. Before that, the type of work that I did was a measurement of who I was, and making money and buying big shiny things and then getting bigger ones and more of them seemed to be that was all my drive, but there was always something missing because it just wasn't the kind of feeling that I have today. So real quickly, what happened was I went back into the field that I worked in before, and I found myself, I'm good at it, and it made money, which is important because you got to keep the lights on. But at the same time, it wasn't giving me the joy, and it wasn't giving me the buzz, if you want to call it that I did with getting to connect and work with people. And so somewhere along that line, I went back to a spiritual counselor, and with 9 years in my recovery, I joined this group. And one day after the group, this gentleman who's the counselor called me, he made me stay after class, if you will, and he called me over and he said, I would like for you to consider something. I said, what? He said, I'd like for you to think about being a recovery coach. Nice. Never met one before, had no idea what that was, but immediately I was struck with the idea that I went back to this group because I missed being in a men's aftercare group 9 years after leaving the treatment center, and that brought me to someone who told me this was probably a good idea for you. So a lot of the teaching that I had to that point came in owning and operating sober living homes, getting to connect with people. I worked at Riverside County Mental Health, and then I looked up, who coaches are and what they do. It's more or less peer support. asking the right questions and knowing what where to help people, direct them to different other sources for help. So I decided to combine that with monitoring program. Because I found out that, there were so many people who did really well when they were monitored. And they were licensed professionals, right? So pilots and doctors and nurses and realtors and lawyers, etc., were mandated by their boards to do that. And it was actually my wife who said to me, why should that be limited to anyone? Why can't anyone be monitored? And basically that's drug testing.
Sure.
And alcohol monitoring. And
Sure.
so that a little bit of extra accountability shows the data that it's basically off the charts. Without it, and I don't like to quote numbers, I'm uncomfortable with that. But the numbers in recovery are relatively low in the first year when people are new. And then when they are monitored, they're very high.
Right.
And so I thought, well, let's use that as a way to add accountability and also to help the family.
Yay.
So, so I'm, this is part commercial of what I do, right? But it's also, this has also been divinely inspired. And I heard other people say things like that, and I went, what does that even mean? Because it never happened to me. So maybe I was a little cynical, or I wasn't sure, or I was doubtful. But I have to tell you, looking back in the 9 years that we've been doing this kind of work, that everything that I've pushed to do, Michele, everything that I've planned on doing, all the charts and graphs and margins and everything else that I'm used to doing in traditional business, none of that works. God goes, here, my higher power just puts it right in my lap every time.
Wow.
And looking back at the direction that that the work has taken, has started with that spiritual counselor saying, I think you'd be good at this.
So a suggestion.
Suggestion.
I love it.
Yeah.
And now you make the suggestions.
And now
I feel like,
yeah.
and it's beautiful. I am so honored to, know you and to be a part of in any way the work you do. Gotten a chance to do some transport for you, which is another aspect of what your company
we've collaborated.
does. And for me, it's just an awesome experience, and just any aspect of making people's experience with that transition of living, clean and a holistic lifestyle for me is an honor. It truly is. And so, it's super. We need a tribe. We need a village of people to do this work. Like, to stay sober. It's easy to get sober. To stay sober, really? That's another arena,
Yeah, it really is.
And there's a lot of adversity. So how has COVID affected, or did COVID affect your business?
It did. And it affected it in that people who have a substance use disorder, for the most part, the disease progressed really rapidly in a lot of them. And then those who maybe were on track started to pull away out of fear of what was going on. And bottom line is we got busier than ever. There were more people reaching out and looking for help than ever before. Oh,
and I was thinking this would be something that's really tangible and easy to integrate, because it's not as though you have to be around other people for it to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So can you explain a little bit more for the people that don't? I mean, I'm real clear. What are the kind of ingredients of what encompasses if someone pays your company for this aftercare experience?
Okay. I'll compact it and make it easy, and then maybe I can expound on it a little bit. So our clients, what they do is they stay connected 7 days a week, and there's a few different ways that that's done. One is by phone.
Nice.
So we have an appointed time every day when an individual will call in. It could be for a minute or two, maybe they're busy. Or it could be if they need more time, well, I'll provide more time. And I'm on call for them as well. So that's that daily check-in, and I notice that the younger they are, the more they like to text. But I'll still make sure to check in with them because I want to hear their voice to make sure that they're okay.
So this is you personally?
Me personally.
With each one of these people?
With each one of the people, yeah.
Why? Goodness, God
Yeah.
bless you.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
Okay,
and
so that's one thing.
Yes.
And it's interesting because most people, I believe, assume that the drug testing, which shows hard data, is the most important part. But what I've learned, I didn't know this till I started doing the work, that it's really the connection.
Human connection. Oh,
If they
hands down.
Yeah,
I couldn't
and
agree
when
more.
when they
Could not agree
disconnect,
more. Yeah.
I know something's wrong, right? So even if the testing, shows that the individual's doing well, they may not be.
Well,
so that
yeah.
one thing is really important. And then we use two forms of testing.
And wouldn't you say relapse happens a lot of times before it actually happens? That gives you the opportunity to kind of get in there and go, something's off. Let's see if we can
Yes.
catch this before there
Yes.
is, in fact, the relapse
Yeah, there's
experience.
some kind of a condition or something that's blocking, something that's going on that maybe hadn't been dealt with. It could be trauma from the time somebody was much younger, or it could be something that has been building just for the last several days. But one of the forms that we use, we actually have a remote breathalyzer made by a company called SoberLink.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
is really interesting. It looks kind of like a phone, and there's a straw that goes in, and somebody blows into it. It takes about 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And it reads their blood alcohol content, takes their picture, and then sends it to me in a file so that, I know they're doing okay. But more importantly, what it does for them is it keeps them on track, and it actually has been shown to change neural pathways. So the thought process of, what sounds really good right now, right? I want a beer with my steak. The thought of, well, I'm going to be testing immediately helps the thought from
Accountability.
It's accountability, and it's the thought from that old thinking or old behavior to a very quick recovery thought of, oh, that's right, I'm not drinking now.
Nice.
So that works really well. And then we have random drug screening. So once a week, they check in daily into handheld monitoring, which is a company that I use. And then once a week, they send them to a local lab to submit a UA.
Nice.
And that's the other form
Right.
that we use. Also at night, I ask for a journal to be sent, and I've authored this journal so that it's a combination of questions looking for balance. So, did you get to work today? Were you looking for work? Did you have some fun today?
Nice.
Did you, if it's an AA directive, then did you get a sponsor? What step are you working on?
Beautiful.
Those kind of things.
Beautiful.
And helping that individual look to develop structure and balance. Because many a times, I know I didn't have any when I came into that treatment center, and they showed me what to do from the time you get up to how to structure a day. So I work with individuals doing that. And, I kind of, the old expression, meet them where they're at. Some people need to know how to budget or spend money they've never worked before. Taught people all kinds of things, how to make a bed and how to wash clothes. And
I love it. Oh my gosh.
my wife was a birthing coach once, although it's not in the literature.
Right.
Because there was a young woman who I got to work with, and her family was not close by.
Aww.
And she was that child's now 6 years old, which is wonderful.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different things that I get to do. Some people have been very successful in business, but they just need to get back on track with family. And by the way, I get to collaborate with a lot of different people. And I'm patting myself on the back. I think I'm good at knowing what I don't know.
Nice.
Sometimes you will hear people say, you don't know what you don't know. I think I know when it's not in my wheelhouse. If somebody needs a different type of care, if they need therapy, if they need to go to a doctor.
Nice.
To come to a spiritual, sober living, structured environment. I know where to send people to because I've built a really nice group of people that I collaborate with.
Oh, yeah, you have. Yeah. You're like a Rolodex. I could literally call you at any time. Hey, Dave, where can I send this guy to treatment? He's da-da-da-da. And I'm like, there's so many places these days we could meet people specifically where they're at and give them the care they need. And it's so nice. So you mentioned your wife, Joey. What's her role in your beautiful company?
It's really, well, she does a lot, but mostly the administrative.
Nice.
Right?
Okay.
Joey's background, she's in recovery as well. She identifies as CODA. I'm outing her here, but
Love
I
that.
have permission.
Yes.
As CODA, and she has a black belt in Al-Anon as well.
I know,
So
that's
she
right.
helps me a lot when families are struggling.
Yeah.
which is great. And
That's so perfect.
complete transparency, she will tell me if I'm looking a little cracked around the edges myself.
Ah, nice.
Compassion fatigue is something that's very
Oh.
real, and we
Oh
have
gosh,
to take
yes.
care of ourselves, right?
Oh, we could do a whole segment on that.
Yeah, so she has no issue telling me,
Nice.
time to go down and visit actually one of the people I collaborate with who's a great therapist, and just to kind of get things back on track, and
Beautiful.
as long as I'm grateful.
We all need a Joey. Oh my gosh. And COVID was so stressful for so many of us,
I know.
and I'm so grateful. I feel like we've gotten a little bit out of that and into a more fluid and safer way of living. And
I think so too. One of the other things, jumping back, that you had asked me about how it changed business was, we provide a few different kinds of services. One I explained, one you talked about, which is helping to transport individuals to and from events. We also have a sober companion, a recovery companion service. It's actually 24 hours.
Nice, yes.
But intervention was not something that I had, sought out to do. But it sure thrust me in the middle of it. So when somebody relapses, rather than calling someone else in, I've been known to just fly out to them on occasion, or drive over, depending on where they're at, and help them to get back on track. But a couple years ago, there were two different interventionists who were calling on me because they were either busy or because they had concerns about their own compromised health care, or how they were feeling. One of them was a little bit older, and so they asked me if they would set it up and I would go in and take it from there. So
do you do family work on that too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So if a client comes to you and they're like, we want you to work with our family as well and bring the healing in that respect, does your GPS cover encompass that as well?
Yes.
Okay.
It does. And
awesome.
there have actually been a couple families who I've worked with that either didn't know where their loved one was, or their loved one was coming out of a treatment center and they weren't sure how to navigate the waters, so they asked me to help them. So in those cases, I coached family.
Nice.
But again, being redundant, there's times when I will start to engage, and if I feel like there's someone else who either is better at it, has more time with it, or is a better fit, then of course I'll recommend that individual or that facility to those folks.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I cannot thank you enough for all you've shared. What else can you share to, the viewers and YouTube that come to this station to learn more about spiritual well-being and other resources available through you? I mean, how could they find you? How can they look you up, David?
Well, it's Coach David Mallow,
Okay.
MALOW1L. At so it's www.coachdavidmallow.com. And matter of fact, my phone it's in my pocket. It's rung a couple of times.
Nice.
when
so
we're
lucky.
Done, when we're done, I'll check in. But it's a service that I'm able to provide, on a 24-hour basis.
Nice.
So I would encourage anybody to reach out for help, whether it's to me or to somebody else, that they do that, because the last thing that I really wanted to share was this disease of addiction is chronic and it's progressive, and if it's left untreated, it's fatal. And that's why I have such a passion to be able to help people, because on one side is truly an amazing, wonderful life where you can thrive, and there's a lot of people will tell you life beyond what they ever could have imagined.
Absolutely.
And I'm living that life, so I'm been on a pink cloud for 17 years, so I'm proof of that. On the other side, it's very scary. It's very serious. People die from the disease every day. I think people know that. They hear about it on the news and so on. And knowing that fact, I'm hoping will drive people to pick up the phone and call a treatment center, call an interventionist, call a recovery coach, but get some help for your loved one or for yourself.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely light to that. And that's it for this week from David Mallow. I'm just so glad you guys got to learn more about Recovery GPS. And these options are something that helps sustain recovery and help you grow and live in recovery in the working world. That's very flexible and very adaptable. Almost everybody has a phone these days. And I do believe that the SoberLink is like court mandated. It works with the courts even, right?
Yeah, it's
So
HIPAA
that's
approved. It's court
excellent.
approved,
So,
yeah.
it's legit. And this man is legit. It's definitely got one of the biggest hearts I've ever met. I hope that you think of him and your resources if you ever need that. And I just want to thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe. It's free to subscribe to my YouTube link if you're watching this. And just like and add comments or questions in the comments box on Cielo Spiritual Foundation. Thank you.
Thanks, Michele.